This story will teach you reasons why you should not attend churches anyhow, because of the occultic powers that these prophets and prophetesses get from Satan in exchange for their lives. Be careful and be prayerful. One stormy Sunday morning, a desperate crowd filled the massive hall of Holy Ground Ministries. Whispers rippled through the rows as they raised their necks to catch sight of Prophetess Patricia, popularly known as Mama See It All. Some said she could peer straight into a person's soul, revealing secrets no one could ever know. Others swore that she had the power to speak directly with God. But today, something unsettling hung in the air. Just then, a scream echoed from the side of the hall. A lady named Agatha, one of Mama See It All's trusted aides, rushed to the front, wide-eyed and shaken. She did it again. Mama healed a cripple. The congregation erupted in cheers. Hands waved in the air. Some danced, others wept tears of joy. But Chioma, a quiet church member who had attended for months, noticed something strange. She had seen this very crippled man walking around the market in Onitsha just days before, carrying bags of rice on his shoulders. Her stomach twisted. Doubt clawed at her heart. But who would believe her? Mama See It All was powerful, untouchable. Her followers would fight you just to protect her. Chioma sat back down slowly, her mind racing. Something was terribly wrong here, and she had a feeling this was only the beginning. Years back, Patricia had been a simple girl from Enugu, from a humble, God-fearing family. Her parents raised her to be honest, devoted, and to walk in the light. She had been the shining hope of their church leading Sunday school, organizing prayer meetings, and singing in the choir. Everyone adored her. Some even said she was destined for greatness. But no one foresaw how her path would turn in such a dark direction. Years later, after struggling to build her ministry without success, Patricia attended a grand conference for pastors in Lagos. There, she met several famous preachers who seemed to hold a secret power. The leader, Pastor Biodun, pulled her aside one evening. "You are trying to be godly," he said, his voice low and smooth, "but you will never make an impact until you are willing to sacrifice." He talked about a special ceremony, one that would require a significant offering from her. At first, Patricia hesitated. Her conscience screamed warnings, but Pastor Biodun's words echoed in her mind. "Do you want to remain unknown forever? Or do you want power?" Driven by her desire to succeed, she agreed. That night, Patricia participated in a strange ritual. The room was lit only by candles. Strange symbols covered the floor. The pastors gathered around, chanting in a language she didn't understand. The price? Her womb? Her chance to ever have children? As she made the offering, Patricia's heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. The air grew thick, heavy, oppressive. When it was over, she felt an eerie power settle around her like a dark cloak. She couldn't explain it, but something fundamental had changed. She could feel it crawling beneath her skin. After returning from the conference, Patricia's fortune began to shift. People started flocking to her services. Within months, the entire country had heard of Mama See It All. Her church in Abuja began filling up with members from every corner of Nigeria and beyond. Her fame grew, and with it, her wealth. But this was only the beginning. Unknown to her followers, Prophetess Patricia, the woman they worshipped as Mama See It All, was far more than just a deceitful prophetess. Beneath her human exterior lay an ancient, sinister secret. Patricia was half human, half serpent, a hybrid of darkness whose origin traced back to a mysterious underwater covenant she had entered after joining the cult. Every midnight, she would disappear from her luxurious mansion in Maitama, leaving the world of mortals behind. In the dead of night, Patricia would shed her human form. Her skin would ripple, scales would emerge dark as midnight, glistening like oil. Her legs would fuse together, transforming into a powerful serpentine tail. This transformation marked her journey to the underwater kingdom, where her true allegiance lay. Patricia would slip silently into the river behind her mansion, vanishing beneath the waters as if swallowed by the very earth itself. There, in the depths, she would join her occultic brothers and sisters, other pastors and prophets who had pledged themselves to the marine kingdom. They shared twisted wisdom, dark strategies, skills to keep their congregations bound in deception. For Patricia, this was where she drew her power. The Marine Queen, a towering figure with serpentine features and eyes like burning coals bestowed upon her strength, vision, and the ability to see into the lives of her followers. But there was a price for this power: her soul, her humanity, and perhaps most disturbingly, her womb. Patricia's sacrifices to the Marine Kingdom had left her barren, a trade she had willingly made to gain authority and influence in the physical world. Back in her church, no one suspected a thing. To them, Patricia was a holy prophetess. They were oblivious to her midnight disappearances, her serpentine transformations, her underwater meetings. Her congregation continued to grow as people flocked from far and wide, desperate for miracles, healing, and deliverance. Those who sought her favor were willing to pay any price, from cash offerings to livestock and even precious family heirlooms. Patricia's ministry had become a relentless machine, swallowing people's wealth and hopes alike. Within months, she began implementing strange new practices. Each member was handed a mirror, which she called the mirror of life. This mirror, she would say with a commanding tone, is blessed by the Almighty Himself. Every morning, look into it, speak to it, and you will see parts of your spirit that need healing. Her congregants cherished these mirrors, believing they were on a path to spiritual growth. But in reality, the mirrors were tools connected to the marine world. Through them, Mama could peer into her members' lives, studying their weaknesses, secrets, and fears. One Sunday, Mama called a young woman named Kemi to the front. "Last night, you argued with your husband about his job, didn't you?" she said, a slight smile crossing her lips. Kemi gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "How did you know?" The congregation erupted into a frenzy, marveling at Mama's ability to know every detail of their lives. In truth, Patricia had used her mirror to summon Kemi's spirit the night before, gathering all she needed to make the revelation sound divine. The church soon introduced holy water and miracle oil, bottled with simple labels but sold at exorbitant prices. Patricia would wave her hands over the items, claiming that they could cure any sickness, fix any marriage, and even bring financial blessings. When Chioma saw a struggling mother give her last savings for a tiny bottle of miracle oil, she clenched her fists. Her suspicions deepened. Something had to be done. But what could one person do against such power? The next Sunday, Prophetess Patricia's voice echoed through the church as she scanned the congregation with piercing eyes. Her gaze landed on a young man seated in the middle row. His name was Chukwuemeka, a quiet, newly returned graduate who had just come back from overseas with his mother. They had come to visit Patricia's church in Abuja, having heard of Mama See-It-All and her supposed divine revelations. Patricia's face lit up as she beckoned Chukwuemeka forward. "Young man, please come forward." Chukwuemeka hesitated, but his mother nudged him, whispering urgently, "Go, this could be your blessing." As Chukwuemeka stepped up to the front, Patricia raised her hand in what looked like a gesture of divine revelation. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes for dramatic effect, then announced, "The Lord has revealed something troubling to me, my son." The congregation fell silent, hanging on every word. Patricia looked at Chukwuemeka with a heavy gaze, shaking her head slowly. "Young man, Your life battery is running dangerously low. I see darkness ahead. If nothing is done, she paused, letting the tension build. You won't live to see your 30s. Chukwuemeka felt his heart begin to pound. Life battery? He didn't understand, but he could see Patricia's grave expression. The entire church seemed to hold its breath. "Mama, please, what does that mean?" he stammered. Patricia placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and lowered her voice so the tension in the air thickened. "It means, my son, that if something isn't done quickly, you won't live to see marriage, children, success, all of that will be lost to you unless you act now." Chukwuemeka's face turned pale. His mother gasped, clutching her chest in fear. But Patricia continued, raising her hand as if bestowing hope upon him. "The Lord has provided a solution. There is a way to renew your life battery, to ensure you live a long and prosperous life." She leaned in closer, her eyes narrowing with intensity. "You must make a sacrifice, a powerful seed, something that costs you deeply. For the Lord blesses those who give from the heart." Chukwuemeka's mother held him tight, her eyes wide with worry. What kind of sacrifice, Mama?" she asked desperately. Patricia nodded, as if she had expected the question. "The Lord has directed me," she said, her voice dropping to a hush, "that your son's life can be renewed with the sacrifice of a cow. Not just any cow, but one that symbolizes new life. Strong, healthy, and without blemish." Chukwuemeka's mind reeled at the thought. "Mama, I don't know where to get a cow now." Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "Do not worry, my son. The Lord understands. You need not go out and find a cow yourself. You can simply convert this sacrifice into a seed. Give the amount, and I will take care of the rest. The church has a way to handle these things. You just need to be obedient and trust in the word of the Lord." Chukwuemeka's mother whispered frantically in his ear, urging him to comply. "Chukwuemeka, don't delay. Just do what Mama Seed all says. Your life is worth more than any amount of money." Reluctantly, he agreed. He pulled out his checkbook with trembling hands and wrote a large sum. Patricia accepted the check with a smile of satisfaction. "My son, your obedience has pleased the Lord. Your life is now in God's hands, and He will reward you for your sacrifice." Relieved but still shaken, Chukwuemeka returned to his seat, his mother clinging to him and thanking the prophetess profusely. But what he didn't know, Patricia had no intention of buying any cow or offering any sacrifice. As she did with many others, she took the money straight to her ongoing project fund, adding it to the luxurious mansion she was constructing in Asokoro. This wasn't the first time she had used scare tactics to squeeze offerings from her congregation, and it wouldn't be the last. Chukwuemeka's experience was just one of many. Chioma watched from a distance. As she gathered more stories like this, she saw the pattern clearly. These prophecies were nothing more than calculated lies to drain followers financially. She began to plan how she might expose these evil doings, though she knew it wouldn't be easy. She prayed that her efforts would one day set people like Chukwuemeka free, opening their eyes to the truth about Patricia's schemes. Despite her growing doubts, Chioma kept attending the church, quietly observing. Then, one service, she noticed something she couldn't ignore. An elderly man in a wheelchair rolled up to the altar. Mama Seed All placed her hand on his forehead, murmuring a prayer. The man suddenly stood up, shaking with supposed new strength, while the congregation erupted in joyous shouts. Chioma, however, recognized him from Wuse Market. He wasn't disabled at all. He was an actor paid to pretend for this miracle. Over time, Patricia had become one of the wealthiest women in Abuja, with a mansion in Maitama filled with gold-plated furniture, expensive cars, and personal staff. She called it a reward from God. But Chioma knew that no such blessing had appeared for her poor neighbors who continued to give until they had nothing left. Amid all her schemes, Patricia wielded her power, not only to deceive, but to control lives, even breaking up families for her own selfish desires. She took a particular interest in wealthy, influential men who attended her church, especially those she sensed could be easily manipulated. If she set her sights on a married man, she would concoct visions and divine revelations that cast doubt upon his wife, creating chaos in the household. During one particularly scandalous service, Patricia singled out a successful businessman named Mr. Adeyemi. She called him to the front of the congregation, dramatically raising her hand as though receiving a divine message. "Brother Adeyemi," she declared, "the Lord is showing me a troubling vision, a dark cloud surrounding your household. Someone close to you, someone you trust deeply, is working against your blessings." As expected, Mr. Adeyemi looked alarmed. His eyes widened with shock and fear. "Prophetess, who could it be?" he asked desperately, eager to protect his fortune and his family. Patricia leaned in, lowering her voice to a solemn whisper. "It's your wife. I see her spirit entangled in a web of envy and greed, blocking your breakthroughs." She paused, then added with false concern, "But fear not. Mama C, it all is here to help you." Over time, Patricia convinced Mr. Adeyemi that his wife's supposed negative energy was the reason for his business struggles. She encouraged him to distance himself emotionally, assuring him that deliverance would come if he followed her instructions. What she didn't tell Mr. Adeyemi was her real motive. She intended to draw him closer to her, knowing he was vulnerable. She began sending him private messages, inviting him to special prayer sessions at her mansion under the pretext of purging his spirit of his wife's supposed bad influence. These sessions, however, soon took a different turn. Patricia manipulated Mr. Adeyemi, feeding him flattering words and assurances of a life filled with blessings, if he would satisfy her desires. In no time, Mr. Adeyemi found himself entangled in an affair with Patricia, convinced that his loyalty to her would bring him divine favor. This pattern repeated with other wealthy men in the congregation. Patricia sowed seeds of doubt between husbands and wives, then positioned herself as the solution. Chioma, who had been investigating Patricia, grew increasingly disturbed as she learned of these manipulative tactics. This wasn't just spiritual deception. It was a web of lies that destroyed families and tore relationships apart. Patricia's actions were beyond sinful, they were predatory. Another unsettling practice was Patricia's claim that she could bless any jerry can of water, transforming it into a holy remedy for all problems, illness, financial troubles, marital issues. For a fee, people would leave their jerry cans of water in her office for prayers. Behind closed doors, Patricia would simply pour a packet of salt and sugar into each jerry can, stirring it briefly. "Now take this water home and drink from it each day," she would instruct. The salt and sugar created a slight change in taste, fooling congregants into believing the water was truly blessed. One evening, Chioma overheard a conversation between two of Patricia's closest aides, Tunde and Bimpe, discussing the jerry can trick. "Can you believe they're paying that much just for a dash of salt and sugar?" Bimpe laughed, shaking her head. Chioma felt a surge of anger, but she stood her ground, her heart filled with the courage to see her mission through. She knew Patricia's days of deception were numbered. The truth was out there, ready to be revealed. And there was no turning back now. Another fateful night, driven by a mixture of curiosity and courage, Chioma decided to follow Patricia. She waited in the bush near the river behind Patricia's mansion in Maitama, clutching her phone tightly, hoping to capture whatever dark secrets lay hidden. The clock struck midnight. The air grew cold, unnaturally cold. Chioma saw Patricia emerge from her mansion. She moved gracefully towards the river, her steps almost gliding across the ground. Chioma's heart raced. She crouched lower, making sure she was hidden in the shadows. Patricia paused at the riverbank. She looked up at the sky and began chanting in a strange language, one that sounded ancient and unsettling. The words seemed to vibrate in the air, making Chioma's skin crawl. Then, before Chioma's very eyes, Patricia's form began to change. Her skin shimmered, scales emerged dark, glistening scales covering her body. Her legs melded together, transforming into a powerful serpentine tail. Her eyes glowed an eerie green. Chioma's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled as she raised her phone, recording everything. Patricia, no. The creature that was Patricia slid silently into the water with barely a splash. The surface rippled once, twice, then became still. She had disappeared beneath the surface, swallowed by the depths. Chioma gasped, barely able to process what she had seen. She realized then that Patricia was not just a fraud. She was something beyond human, something malevolent. Chioma stumbled back, her mind racing. This truth was more terrifying than she could have ever imagined. Patricia wasn't merely deceiving her congregation. She was manipulating them with powers that stemmed from the depths of a dark, occultic world. The next morning, Chioma returned to the church, her spirit heavy but resolved. She knew now that her mission was not just to reveal Patricia's fraudulent practices, but to expose the dangerous forces she was harnessing. But Patricia, aware of Chioma's growing suspicion, took notice. Her piercing gaze lingered on Chioma during the service. Her smile was as sharp as a blade. During the altar call that day, Patricia announced that she had a special blessing for one person in the congregation who was called to serve a divine mission. She fixed her gaze on Chioma, who froze. "Chioma, come forward." Patricia's voice was smooth, but laced with an undertone of menace. "The Lord has shown me that you carry a heavy burden. Come, let Mama see it all, lift it from you." Chioma's heart pounded, but she stepped forward, not wanting to reveal her fear. As Patricia laid a cold hand on her forehead, Chioma felt a chilling sensation run through her body like ice water in her veins. She heard Patricia whisper in her ear, barely audible to anyone else, "You are treading dangerous waters, my child. Be careful, for some secrets are not meant to be uncovered." Chioma swallowed hard, but refused to back down. She would continue her mission to expose Patricia, but she now knew the stakes were higher than she had imagined. There was no turning back now. Chioma's courage became her guiding light as she continued to gather evidence against Patricia. With every passing day, she uncovered more layers of deception and dark manipulation, which confirmed that Patricia's reach went beyond mere trickery. It was now clear to Chioma that her mission was about more than just exposing Patricia's lies. It was about freeing innocent souls bound by Patricia's sinister practices. When Chioma finally released her gathered recordings, photos, and testimonies to the media, the world was shocked. Reports spread like wildfire, exposing Patricia's deceitful miracles, staged healings, and cult connections. The video of Patricia's transformation went viral. News outlets across Nigeria picked up the story. Congregants who had once revered her now recoiled with disbelief, feeling betrayed by the person they once called Mama See It All. Many wept openly, mourning the years and money they had poured into her ministry, only to realize it had all been a carefully orchestrated illusion. Mr. Adeyemi publicly apologized to his wife, who took him back with tears and forgiveness. Chukwuemeka demanded his money back, and when Patricia refused, he took her to court. In her final address to the scattered congregation, Chioma spoke words of wisdom. "My brothers and sisters, this experience has taught me something crucial. Just because someone calls themselves a prophet or a servant of God doesn't mean they are. We must be discerning and vigilant, seeking the truth beyond appearances. Not every church or prayer house represents God's light, and not everyone who claims to be a pastor is genuine. Chioma went on to remind everyone that while Patricia's story had cast a dark shadow, it didn't mean all spiritual leaders were deceivers. There are true servants of God, men and women who work tirelessly in humility and sincerity to bring God's love and truth to His people. They don't ask for wealth or demand strange sacrifices. They simply live in a way that reflects the goodness and mercy of the Almighty. Moral lessons. Not everyone who speaks in God's name serves God. Test every spirit. Seek discernment. Thank you for watching. If this story opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and make sure to click the subscribe button. Remember, stay vigilant, stay discerning, and always seek the truth.